Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Flipping the World podcast. We are here at the Digital Wildcatters new studio on Brittmore Road in Houston. So thank you to Digital Wildcatters and Collide for letting us use their amazing studio for us to be doing podcasts in person again in 2025. We've got a special guest today, Nick Ruppelt, COO of Evolution Well Services, and we're excited to finally get to tell your story on the podcast. We got a chance to meet a few months ago, and you've got a really awesome, interesting oil field story. And so, Nick, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, appreciate it, y'all. Privileged to join you today.
Awesome. Nick, I'm always so intrigued where people come from, especially like where they grew up. And we've seen so many times on the podcast that there's so much things about like growing up, the place where you live that impacts you and really like creates the person that you are today. Can you tell our listeners like where are you originally from? Did you know about oil and gas at all growing up? And like, were you Texas born?
I'm not Texan. Did not know about oil and gas. I'm actually from Louisville, Kentucky, which this time of year, I guess we're a week away from Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
So everyone will be watching on TV soon, hopefully. Fastest 2 minutes in sports.
Yeah.
But I grew up there for almost my whole life, and then went to college in Boston.
Wow.
Which is also not oil and gas hub. But my number one goal when graduating college was to get rid of the cold weather. So I made it south immediately after to Atlanta, Georgia, and then eventually made it to Houston for oil and gas.
Tell me about Kentucky, because I grew up riding horses, so all I think about is like horse land. You know, there's also like the Rolex there, the Kentucky Derby. Were you involved in any, like, what did your parents do? Were they?
I've never ridden a horse.
Okay.
So definitely not involved in horses.
Lots of stereotypes. You have
Yes.
a horse.
Yeah.
Yes, you have a horse. You're in Kentucky. Like
Definitely
what?
did not. Seen horses
Yes.
at the Derby numerous times. But my parents both worked at GE, and GE Appliances is headquartered there. I think they've since been bought. They make all the washing machines, refrigerators, everything there.
So engineering, like, were you math? Like, is that something that you liked? Like, tell me a little bit about those like pivotal times, because I'm still in my mind. I'm like, wait, oil and gas, like how?
What degree did you
Yeah, what degree?
No, I'm an engineer. My dad was an engineer.
Okay.
He always told me to go into engineering. Even if you don't want to do it, he said you can pivot into whatever you want. So I went to engineering school at Northeastern University in Boston, primarily because they have co-op program. So you do a rotation every 6 months. You do 6 months work, 6 months school. For by the end, you have 18 months of work. Wow. So it essentially allows you to go make all the decisions of careers you didn't want to do, or you can find out what you did want to do. Yeah. And you leave and you essentially know roughly what you're getting yourself into afterwards. So I worked at GE Aviation in the helicopter turbine business, GE in the electrical side of the business, and then Goldman Sachs and securities lending finance in Boston as well. So engineering can do everything, right? So there's really no limitation. But eventually I'm mechanical. I went into electrical career at Siemens doing automation, software, controls, electrical products.
Okay, so you were really smart, obviously, because like nobody can just do that. So do you think like growing up, were you like intrigued by mechanical things? Did your dad or your like work on cars? Like, is there anything like in your, because I know when you meet people that are like mechanical, like you can tell, you're like, okay, you can fix anything. Was that you?
No, I cannot fix anything. No, definitely not. We have to hire
don't
handyman for everything at work.
Repairs that you
Yes.
have.
My wife
okay.
would definitely not like me taking credit for being able to fix things.
Yeah.
No, I do enjoy math and problem solving, things like that. But legitimately, engineering was there because you can do anything with it. So I personally think it's the hardest degree you can get. And it just shows you're willing to put in the effort to do it. And then from there, like Goldman loves engineers. They actually prefer, at least the team I worked with, preferred hiring engineers for finance roles because they said no one knows anything. So you might as well get someone that's willing to put in the effort. And if they're in engineering school, they're willing to put in the effort, learn how to problem solve. We'll teach them everything they need to know. Yeah.
That's a smart strategy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously, your path to CEO today has been super unconventional. And what I like about it is that it doesn't look like everybody else's story. It's really kind of unique. Tell us a little bit about when you did go into Siemens, you went into automation, et cetera. You still had not necessarily gone straight into the oil field service side of the
Right.
business. Tell us a little bit about just maybe that last year at Siemens and what made you make that jump to look into the industry. And then also, what preconceptions did you have about the industry in general when you were like a frac company?
So when I joined Siemens, you start in Atlanta, you live there for a year, and then they send you out to your, semi-permanent city where you start your career. So I started at Atlanta, moved to Houston, and that's essentially where I got introduced to oil and gas. It was not necessarily, I didn't work for a oil and gas division of Siemens. It was just all of our projects, all of our customers in Houston were related to oil and gas. So it was automation, software, electrical products, and every single project, including Evolution Well Services, ended up being one of my customers, which is how I met Carrie Mertlin, who was a former COO who ended up hiring me at Evolution. But I did not know a thing about oil and gas other than you fill up your car for the most part. And then actually had a pretty bad perception of it, not due to anything environmental, but I moved to Houston in 2015. So all I knew was everyone was getting laid off. So I heard stories of everyone doing extremely well. 2013, 2014, I moved there
Golden years.
thinking this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I get there and I think oil was $35 or something like that. So not the best time to move to the city. But Siemens, I don't want to say it was all oil and gas. It was predominantly, but for example, one of the last projects I did was we helped automate a Starbucks. You get the glass bottle Starbucks at the gas station. We did a palletizing sorting machine for that. So it's the same controllers. You can automate anything in the world. It just happened to be that almost everything's oil and gas here.
So Evolution, tell me they were a customer of yours at the time? Is that what
Yes.
okay. And how did that conversation go? Because, taking from like you're working with them and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, Siemens, I'm out. I'm going to go work now for the customer, which usually is a pretty positive thing because they're like, great, then you'll still probably use Siemens. But
Yeah.
ultimately, like what made you decide and like how did you know it was time to take that leap of faith, especially given what like, the environment is cyclical in oil and gas. So you were moving from something that was pretty stable, I would say, to a potential risk because my experience in frac Evolution at the time was doing something nobody else was. So tell us about like just getting over that hurdle of like, okay, I'm going to take a risk on myself and move away from something comfortable.
Yeah, Siemens is probably the most stable place in the world. I think it was 365,000 employees when I left, and they're known for never laying people off. It's a German company, European mindset. So it definitely was stable. Even during the downturn when I moved here, people were not worried about losing jobs, which was incredible. So I was not looking. I was actually at our yearly conference for Siemens in Vegas, and Carrie called me as I was flying back, and she said, "You want a job?" So definitely not looking, and had no real interest in leaving. I actually really loved working at Siemens, but she convinced me to come over. And when you look at number one, I think it was important to take a risk, especially early on, and go take a chance. I didn't know that much about the company, but I think what I enjoy at work is people and winning. So I like good culture when people have good people that you can get along with. If you're going to be in the trenches working with people all day, I think you have to enjoy working with your coworkers, and you have to believe that the team is going to win, that we have the best possible chance of success. And then Evolution also just has pretty incredible technology. So not knowing anything about oil and gas, I knew they had a winning team and technology. And then Carrie was an awesome person too. So she convinced me to come over and took a leap of faith there. Worked out pretty well.
That's awesome. How many years ago was that?
That was January 19.
Awesome.
6 years.
That's awesome. I think what's incredible about that is I've met so many people through just knowing people or careers, and many people end up getting this crossroad of this kind of opportunity. A customer or somebody who's doing a startup with some cool tech, and they come to you because they think you're great. And so many people are scared to get on that rocket ship. And And I'm always like, go do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? We're young. Like, go take some risks. But the comfort of staying at a Siemens, the comfort of staying at these big companies is like, it's not worth the risk for a lot of people. But then they don't get this like fun success story. And again, not all success stories happen like this. There could be some bad
Right.
ones. But I think learning through even a company going bankrupt or a company not working out, you walk out of there with so much value, you know? And so I
Totally agree.
love these kind of stories because you have to take a risk once in a while. You took a big one in the sense that you could have been at Siemens today, had a great career, you loved what you were doing. But it's cool to see that you were able to see the bigger picture. And then again, the people behind it.
Agree. If you find people you like to work with, don't let it go. That's for sure. It makes it fun. So
What have you found the most challenging? Because I know that, especially in a business like Evolution at the time, even finding, I'm assuming, capital, people to like back what y'all are doing, really trying to change the mindset of operators too, because I believe the technology that you have is very different than the normal frac fleet. How did you get buy-in, and like what advice would you give for those that are looking to start a company or maybe in the midst of it and still trying to get that buy-in from someone?
yeah, so I'll take zero credit for being involved in any of the funding. That was
Yeah.
all done before I was there. We have, I would say, one of the most innovative shareholders, a single shareholder that founded our company and still today funds it. Really constructive person, an engineer himself, creative, and he has a huge belief in our company and long-term success of the company. So I take zero credit for that. The company was already there,
Yeah.
and he's still there. But in terms of getting customers buy-in, when I joined, we were 200-ish employees. I think we had 3, maybe 4 fleets deployed, and it's not easy. The solutions people had were working well, and then you're going to come in and take their biggest spend in their entire business, their biggest risk, and tell them to try something new. And then not only that, but our business model is to do long-term partnerships. So you're going to tell someone, commit to me for multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
I'll deliver you some equipment in about a year. So you have to wait.
Yeah.
And then you're essentially stuck with us. So you really have to convince them, and you have to not just convince them, but you have to really have conviction yourself that what you're telling people is exactly what they're going to get, and you have to believe in it. And it ultimately works really well. And now we're up to, I think 1,000 or 1,100 people, 14 fleets. I think we're the 5th largest frac company now.
That is so cool
yeah.
to even hear those
getting bigger.
numbers.
Yeah.
But not easy to convince people, that's for sure. And I think that if you don't believe in it and you don't think you have the right team, technology, you're not going to be able to pitch it, because you have to, it's a grind. And I can't imagine what like Kerry, for example, and Ben Boschbaugh, Jeff Morris, Steven Anderson, the people that founded the company, when they had to sell that first fleet, I was selling fleet whatever after that, when we already had
You had
4 or 5
data.
fleets.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had
Like,
data.
yeah.
They were selling on, hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
So that's a
That's
much
incredible.
bigger challenge than what I had to do. But they deserve a lot of credit for it.
How have you found going from 200 or so employees when you started 6 years ago to the 1,100-ish folks in terms of really keeping that small culture, working with people that you enjoy, and that culture of a startup is so strong, but obviously as you scale, and not that it gets lost, but it's harder to control because now there's just so many more people and maybe even layers. How have you found as CEO with your leadership team to make sure that that small, like urgency, customer service, that's communication is key, to be still like instilled within the company culture?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part of what we've done is there's a small team that built the company, right? And every time you add someone, you have the opportunity to either maintain, elevate, or dilute talent and performance of the company. So every single hire you make matters. And I think that's where we've been able to focus really well and invest almost all of our time into people. And when we bring someone on, we want to have a belief that they are going to make us better and not dilute, because honestly, I do almost nothing for the company. It's all the team members do everything. But it's our job to set the direction, set the goals, and then develop our people to succeed or bring in new people as we grow as well, and make sure that what made us successful continues, because we've added 800 people or so in the last couple years.
What have you seen work, since you're saying that, like, you're not the one like doing that, as far as the people are coming in and they're the ones doing like most of the customer facing stuff, probably working all of the end to end. What have you seen work in developing that culture, and what have you tried anything and been like, oh no, like we're not gonna do this again? Yeah.
I would say, I guess, a couple things. Number one, we were talking about how I got my job. It was essentially through networking, right? We are big on that at our company. We like to bring in people that come recommended from our clients, from our vendors, from employees, so that we know there's some, it's a very good reference, because it's not just a third party reference. It's someone's putting their neck on the line to bring them into the company. So we have an incredible amount of employees that were references from all those. But I think one big thing for us on the culture side is Steven is my boss. He's the CEO of the company, and culture is his biggest thing. I'm really big on what I call right people, right role, which is how do we set people up for success, make sure we're the right person in each spot. How do we develop them to succeed the best? He's really, really big on culture. And something I envy, and something he does that actually Rich Dealey, he was the former CEO of Pioneer Natural Resources. He's now VP over at Exxon. But those two do something pretty incredible that I think has helped them both be successful, is they know every employee in the company. So if you go to PAD and you talk to an equipment operator, or if you go to the engineering part of the office, Steven knows them all. And that helps drive culture. Rich Dealey set a pretty cool example of this. I met him once or twice back in probably 2021. We've kept in touch a little bit since then for business reasons, but I met him one time, ran into him at a hotel downtown Houston, and he comes up and says, "Nick, how are you? How was your vacation?" I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
That's
incredible.
I don't even know my name.
Yeah.
But that's I think people that can do that, and I think a lot of that's natural.
Yes.
But Steven, who runs our company, has that. Rich has that, and Pioneer had a really unique culture as well. So I have a lot of respect for what they've been able to do. And I think that being invested and knowing people and knowing your employees makes a huge impact.
It goes a long way, where you feel like you're part of the bigger picture. You're not just a number. You're not just somebody executing something. You feel like, like the CEO knows my name, or like you feel invested into the company and its success. And it's not just a paycheck. And that's hard, because once I think employees just fall into this is just a paycheck, whatever. When I go home, I don't care. That's when it starts to creep in the not so good culture that you don't want. So that's really cool to hear. A question for sure is, like, you're young. I don't think you're over 40. Definitely not. I'm like, he's probably our age for sure. So tell me a little bit about some of the challenges of being so young and being COO, having that kind of title, managing 1,000 people even at that point, on just a lot of people who get to these quote unquote positions or jobs, they're 20, 25 years in, they've got their scars, and people respect them a lot more. Like, I even feel like Jamie and I, we always talk about, like, even within our own careers, it's always like you're not taken as serious, not only because we're women sometimes, but because we look young. And so have you ever faced that where they're like, he's the boss? Like most of maybe employees out, they're like, we could be your dad. How do you deal with knowing that you're young, but that you're still learning to be a leader, or how did you develop that leadership skills, I guess, within such a short amount of time?
Yeah, for sure. I'm 32, so hopefully y'all didn't think I was 40.
No.
I'm like, obviously you look super young, but I'm like, what if he's like over 40 and I just super complimented? It's hard when you're talking about people.
No, I'm just glad people think I've graduated college now. It's everyone thinks I'm even younger than I am. I'm not surprised y'all face that same thing, right? So I think people make assumptions, and it's not ideal to make assumptions either way, whether it's someone experienced or inexperienced. But I'm big on, I think everyone deserves a chance, And then I think if people could acknowledge that, for example, I don't have any experience. You know, I guess I graduated probably when I was 21. I guess I'm 10 years in, roughly, right? I do not have that experience. So I acknowledge that, and I like to lean on mentors probably more than anyone would. Any big decision I have to make, any sort of strategy. I haven't been through it. You know, people do have those battle scars. I don't have
Yeah.
any scars, fortunately and unfortunately. But you know, going through those experiences is, I think, the best way to be able to make the right decisions. When you don't have them, you have to lean on people that do have those scars and the experiences to help guide you. And fortunately, I have a lot of really good mentors that help me out, not just in this industry, but across industries. So depending on what the challenge is, I'll call different people and say,
What's been the best advice that maybe a mentor has given you in a challenging situation? Something you can think of advice-wise.
I would say the biggest thing that everyone's always told me is the only thing that matters is people. And not just treating people right and having the right culture, but it is really big. Once you get in a leadership role, you really don't do much. Just honestly, I've never fracked a stage.
Yeah.
You know, I don't control our equipment. It is all about the people. And how do you pick the right people? How do you develop them to succeed? And then when you do have to bring someone in from external, how do you pick the right person? And my first boss at Siemens was very big on people. I think he built some of the best teams I've seen. He's still doing it today. And he basically said, solely focus on picking the right people. And he said, then your job's pretty darn easy.
Yeah.
But beyond that, if you pick the wrong team, you're in trouble.
So, being young, how were you able to curate that? Because I'm sitting here thinking, like, 32, I'm 35, so you're 3 years younger than me, and I'm like, how were you able to know, know what have that experience to be like, okay, I've been through this before. I know that that's the right person, or I have that right connection, because you've only been in the industry for such a short period of time. So, what do you think gives you what do you think makes you different? I wish I had Carrie here so I could be like, because it would be such a great, because she saw something in you, and obviously it flourished, and you're doing amazing. But it's like, do you have an idea of like what that is, or like did she tell you like, I want you to come? Because at that time you had to have been in your 20s.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Young 20s.
Yeah.
26 or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what she saw, but I'm thankful she saw something. Maybe she just like grabbing a beer or grabbing lunch or something. I don't know. But
She's like, who just be like super chill about coming here and not asking too many
Yeah.
questions? This guy.
no, I'm definitely thankful she brought me over,
Yeah.
and she's actually doing extremely well. Founded a new company and everything, and is killing it. But I think it all, once again, goes back to people, to where when I talk about references, when we bring people on or anyone we find, or if we're looking for a new customer, we lean heavily on who do we trust, who have we been through something with before, and lean on them. So almost all of our key hires, it's not like they applied online usually. It was, I'm not to say you can't apply online, but usually people came recommended. It was someone like Carrie brought me on. I was a vendor, so she had interacted with me in a professional setting and knew how I interact with customers. So whatever experience you can find with people, or find someone you trust fully,
Yes.
that is willing to say, Nick, go hire this person. They're gonna kill it for you. And that's what we try to do. And we found, I personally think we have the best team by far in
That's
in our industry. It's just a good group of people that do extremely well at what they do.
So your wife, she's a pediatric oncologist,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It seems so stressful, and working oil and gas is stressful. What is it like at home? Like, how do you manage y'all's time? Because that would be, that's a job that is committed. I mean, you're there all the time, I'm sure. And like, she's got that commitment to her patients. Like, you have the commitment to your team. Tell us about managing that, because everybody's always intrigued on like how do you make life work?
Well, first, everyone always says your wife has such a meaningful job.
Yes, I was gonna
And-
say, like,
And
I'm
not
sorry,
you.
her job is
Exactly.
just
like,
And I
bragging.
will say, us in the industry, I think we have very
Yes.
meaningful
Yeah.
jobs as well. I always I joke with her. I tell her, I don't, to be honest, I'm not very well versed in what she does, but I tell her the MRI machine wouldn't turn on without electricity.
Yeah.
So you'd still be.
you help support her, her,
Yeah, exactly.
her job.
But no, more
she does.
more joking on that. She has a very meaningful job.
Very
and,
meaningful and very difficult.
She is extremely smart. So she had a friend, one of her best friends growing up, passed away from kids cancer, childhood cancer, and from then she said she was going to be a pediatric oncologist. I think I don't know how old she was,
Wow.
maybe 10 or something. So she's followed through. She finishes. Well, she did 2 undergrad degrees in 3 years, and
Holy
then
cow.
full ride med school, all this kind of stuff. So she's way smarter than I will ever be.
Wow.
But she finishes her fellowship July 1, and
Wow.
then she's going to be full time at Texas Children's doing pediatric cancer treatment. But in
That
terms
is
of
awesome.
She's amazing.
She's
Shout
awesome.
out
That's
to your
amazing.
wife.
she's
Yeah.
awesome.
She's amazing.
In terms of work-life balance, I think that's different for everyone. Our way of, I guess, living is do something you enjoy, and she's been committed to that since well before I met her, and well before she went through med school or college, everything. She knew what she wanted to do, and that's what brings her joy. I love solving problems. I love interacting with people, and evolution is a great place to do that. So we both work a lot, but it's what we
It's what you
enjoy
love.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do take a lot of breaks, try to spend time with family. We're going to Hawaii for a couple weeks in June, and we have our dog.
Yeah.
No kiddos yet, but
Yeah.
Work-life balance, I think, is different for everyone.
Mhm.
Is what I would say. It's and it can evolve over time too. But if you do what you enjoy, then I mean, it's kind of corny, but they always say it's not work at that point too, right? So
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, because we get asked all the time, like, how do we do multiple things and do the podcast and we have kids and da 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 da, and it's like it's because we enjoy it. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel
It doesn't
like
feel
you're
like work.
grinding
Yeah.
and like, this is not fun.
Yeah, you have to find fulfillment in it and
Yeah.
passion in it. If not, if we hated doing this, this would be a really difficult job.
Yeah,
And
no.
and I think when you don't like it or you're not passionate about it, like you're like, I'm moving on to the next company or to the next.
Completely
You're always
agree.
trying to find this groove where we feel happy and like fulfilled. So it's great to hear that you found that, and I think too for it's really cool to hear about your wife and just following her passion and actually following through. I think a lot of people are like, I want to be a doctor one day too,
Yeah.
and they don't. So it's really cool, and I think you're at the perfect age of right now. I think there shouldn't be a balance. It's like, let's just work hard. We're in our 30s, early 30s, etc. And then when kids come along, we're gonna re-interview you.
Yeah, and see
and be
how
like,
that
how's
looks.
that going? Because it's another game. But I guess one of the last questions is more on, obviously our industry is super cyclical. It's hard to find new talent because, to your point, even when you showed up in 15, it's like everybody's getting laid off. We went through COVID. That was tough. I can't imagine for small businesses too how that could affect when big companies are all pulling out of the market or just not going to spend on technology because they're figuring out their P&L. And then even now we're in 2025, like, we've seen so many companies even still like worried about what's happening next and the oil prices, etc. How do you at the top of a company like this that is quite cyclical in the frac business, how do you maintain that positive outlook for employees and just even for yourself in terms of like mental health of like the stress, obviously, when you are responsible for 1,000+ people who are depending on the success of the business, when there's so many uncontrollable things in the market?
Yeah, I think OFS is probably the most up and down space in the world. It's wild. Every day you never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen if OPEC were to do something 2020-ish, or if Ukraine, unfortunately, is going to happen and all of a sudden it goes up to 120 dollars a barrel. So you really never know. In terms of, I guess you asked a couple questions there. One, in terms of our business, we take a really unique approach to where we want to invest in our people. We want to ensure or I don't want to say ensure, but do the best we possibly can to make sure that we're as steady as can be. So a slogan we always say is we try to take the peaks off, the highs, and then we try to eliminate the valleys as well, and be somewhere in that middle upperish with, an upward trajectory that's very successful. We're not trying to take advantage of people in the upswing, and then we try to have the right partners who would treat our business right and want to do the right thing for our people in a downturn as well. That doesn't mean it's always feasible, but that's our goal, and we've stuck to it since the company started. With that being said, I do think you hear a lot about the talent problem in oil and gas. I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think people love to come work for our industry. I think that we have some of the most challenging problems ever to solve.
Yeah.
It's incredible technology. I think it's company to company. I think people want to work. When we walked in, y'all were talking about it. People want to work somewhere where they enjoy what they do, flexibility, or whatever it may be. I think you need to offer what people want, adapt with the times, and make sure that your company is offering something that's attractive. And I think we've had a lot of success with it because we're a frac company, but we're really a technology company. We have a whole power division. We have essentially a gigawatt of power within our company, and now the data center boom is going crazy. And there's always something, a new challenge, always something interesting. And then on the frac side of our business too, we're doing something that we invented and that no one else had really done. We had to be creative and do it. And then we're always still trying to push the limits. So I don't think it's tied to oil and gas. Honestly, don't think a lot of people even treat our company that work there as oil and gas, even though I think we all have a lot of pride in the product we make and everything. But I think it's more people want to work for people. And if you treat people right, you give them fun challenges every day, you give them whatever flexibility to challenge themselves, that's where they want to work. And if you get too rigid, which I do think oil and gas does sometimes, then you run into problems. But I do think it's very company to company, because you see it within the same space, whether it's OFS or E&P. Look at two E&Ps. You can see some where they're very successful, massive, but their talent is wildly different than maybe another company of a similar size that treats their approach differently. And that's
so
why
true.
I think it just comes down to how people want to run their company. And you can be successful in different ways as businesses, but ultimately it's people make the difference.
I love it. Yeah. No, that was a great ending, Nick. I love your story. What I really like is how you were so upfront about, I did not know anything about oil and gas. Like, my perception was layoffs, which is pretty much what a lot of people think when they don't know anything about it, especially when they move to Texas in a downturn. I mean, pretty much everywhere you look, somebody's getting laid off in Houston. And then to move from Siemens to Evolution and have such a success and such a cool story with just Evolution alone, and what y'all are doing and how y'all have changed the market, and you being a part of that at such a young age is so cool. I think it's really inspiring for those that are wanting to get into the industry and also know that, like, there's opportunity everywhere. Like, you're 32 and you're COO, like that's incredible. You don't see that a lot, and oil and gas can provide that to anybody. I mean, you're an engineer. We have a lot of engineers in oil and gas industry space. Everybody has really great ideas. It's just executing on those ideas, and that's what Evolution did, and that's why y'all are so successful. So I'm very happy that you came on today and joining us here at the Digital Wildcatters studio. I love being in person. It's so fun. I'm so glad we were able to meet you in person. So thank you so much for coming out and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you all. Awesome to hear your story. Congrats on all the success too. And it's pretty cool to see this new Digital Wildcatters studio too.
Yeah.
It's an awesome office.
Thank you. And if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment, follow us on LinkedIn. www.fromthebarrel.com is our website. We have tons of events coming up, constantly posting new episodes, and our sister podcast, Mob. Go check it out. It's a Spanish podcast. And catch us on the next episode. Thank y'all for tuning in.